With over 50% of the camera market, there's a good chance you've either been shooting or thought about shooting a Canon camera. And with their current camera lineup, I think there's never been a better time to do that. 6 of these 7 cameras were released since May 2022, which makes Canon the most prolific manufacturer of interchangeable lens cameras over the past year. Each of these models has its own unique strengths, which makes them all worth considering if you're in the market for a new camera body. Let's get right into it and talk about the differences between the cameras. First is the Canon EOS R100. The R100 is the most budget-friendly of all compact mirrorless cameras, not just within the Canon brand. It's an outstanding entry point for anyone who's new to underwater photography, new to mirrorless, or new to interchangeable lens cameras. If you're looking for an affordable and compact system that doesn't limit your creativity, you really can't beat the R100 right now. Here's what you get. A 24 megapixel resolution APS-C sensor. The R100 has a single exposure dial with a button to switch back and forth between shutter speed and aperture. It has a fixed rear LCD screen. It doesn't flip out, tilt, or swivel. The R100 records 4K video at up to 24 frames per second with a cropped portion of its sensor. It records 1080 HD resolution at up to 60 frames per second using the full width of its sensor. The battery life rating of the R100 is 430 shots per charge, which is a perfectly respectable number and will get you through a day of diving. The price of the R100 is pretty incredible at an MSRP of $480 for the camera body or just $600 with the kit lens. The next camera in Canon's lineup is the EOS R50. Canon released this camera right between the R10 and the R100 in both price and features. We do not support this camera primarily because of Canon's decision to remove the traditional hot shoe contacts and support only the new multi-interface flash connector. This limits your flash interface options. In terms of usability underwater, we also think that the secondary control dial and 4K 60p video recording are more than worth the price difference to move up to the R10. So let's talk about the Canon R10. For our dollar, the Canon R10 hits that sweet spot between performance and price. We particularly appreciate the addition of the second exposure dial, and it's the only camera in its class to offer 4K at 60p video resolution. R10 has these other advantages over the R100. It incorporates Canon's latest advanced AI learning autofocus tracking, which really shines with its tracking of moving subjects. They don't advertise that it works with fish, but it really does. It also has a fully articulated LCD touchscreen, which doesn't affect us underwater, but it's great for shooting selfies on the surface. The R10 is the first camera in the lineup to feature dual exposure dials. I rely heavily on these to be able to change shutter speed and aperture quickly underwater. It's capable of burst shooting at up to 23 frames per second, which is more than what we need underwater. I really like that the R10 can capture 4K at up to 60 frames per second. If you're going to be shooting a decent amount of video underwater, you'll appreciate this. I almost always shoot 60 frames per second so that the footage can be slowed down in post-production for a more cinematic look. It also shoots 1080 HD at up to 120 frames per second. The R10 is rated for 450 shots per charge, which is only a little slightly more than the R100. The Canon R10 retails for $979 for the body only in the US or $1099 with the kit lens. Even when combined with the kit lens, this camera is more affordable than the Sony RX100 compact camera, which has a much smaller image sensor and a built-in, non-interchangeable lens. After the R10 is a model that I really like very much. It's the Canon EOS R7. The R7 is our pick for shooters that have a heavy focus on video and photographers who want extra resolution in their images. It packs a high-resolution APS-C sensor, which is perfectly suitable for wide-angle and particularly good for macro photography. In-body image stabilization combines with image stabilization in your lens to give you sharp photos and video. Battery life is also the best of all of Canon's mirrorless camera line. Advantages over the R10 include that the R7 has gone from 24 megapixels up to 33, which is best in its class. The R7 is the only compact body Canon interchangeable lens camera with an in-body image stabilization system. Every bit helps when shooting video underwater, and I love having this in the camera body. The other compact Canon models rely on stabilization built into the lens. The burst rate's even a little bit faster than the R10 with 30 frames per second shooting. The R7 can capture 4K video at up to 60 frames per second using the full width of its sensor. The R7 adds 10-bit C-Log3 profile, which is great for color correction in post-production. It also features a second SD card slot, and it's rated for 660 shots per charge. The Canon R7 camera body retails at $1499 here in the US, which is a great price for this much technology. The last in the series of compact mirrorless camera bodies is the Canon EOS R8. The R8 is our choice for compact shooters looking to move to full frame, and full frame shooters interested in either downsizing or adding a second camera body. The R8 is one of the smallest and arguably one of the most powerful full-frame camera systems on the market. Advantages over the R7 include that it's built around the full-frame sensor. Now, there are some merits to shooting a cropped sensor underwater, but some photographers really want a full-frame sensor, and it's incredible to have one in such a small system. It's great for action and sports photography with up to 40 frames per second continuous shooting. For video shooters, the R8 captures 4K at up to 60 frames per second, downsampled from 6K footage for better resolution. What you lose is that the R8 is back down to 24 megapixels resolution, but it's the same image quality you'll get from the next camera in the lineup. To keep things small, Canon removed the in-body image stabilization and the SD second card slot that we found in the R7. Lastly, the R8 is rated for only 290 shots per charge, and battery life is perhaps the biggest issue with this camera. A spare battery is always convenient, but I would specifically recommend it if you're going to be shooting video with the R8. It's still an incredibly powerful offer at only $1499 for the camera body in the US. If you want to shoot Canon full frame underwater, it's really hard to overlook the Canon R8. The system is really compact and enjoyable to use underwater. A smaller system is easier to swim around with and, of course, much easier to pack. The R8 also makes an amazing second camera body for people who are shooting the R5 or R6 series as primary cameras. Past the R8, we get into the larger body full frame cameras, starting with the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. If you're a professional photographer looking for a primary full frame camera body, then you'll probably be leaning towards the EOS R6 Mark II. While image quality and autofocus performance are similar to the considerably smaller R8 camera body, the R6 II wins out with a substantially bigger battery and second card slot. Advantages over the R8 include the in-body image stabilization, which combines with any stabilization in a Canon IS lens. With the bigger camera body, there's also plenty of room for that second SD card slot and a larger battery. The battery in the R6 Mark II is rated for 580 shots per charge, and I find that I have no problem with battery life when I shoot this camera. In the housing, you also get support for a wider range of full-frame lenses due to the larger DL port system. You also have the ability to add the USB-C charging and data transfer bulkhead. I love this new innovation because it allows me to leave my camera in the housing during a whole week of diving if I want to. I just plug in a USB cord to offload photos and charge the camera. So what you lose when you move to this system is that it is the larger camera body. The underwater system ends up being a lot bigger and heavier to accommodate both the differential in camera size, plus the ability to use just about any of the high-end full-frame lenses, which tend to be quite large in diameter. You also start to get more of a sticker shock here with a retail price of $24.99 for the camera body. That's more than you would invest in the R10 with the lens, the underwater housing, and the dome port. The last camera we'll cover today is the Canon EOS R5. This is the top-of-the-line Canon camera that we support, and we really recommend stopping here if travel size and weight are any concern to you. If you're looking for maximum resolution in both videos and stills, then you need to be willing to drop the extra $1,400 on the R5. Even 3 years after its release, the R5 continues to be an incredibly capable camera on par with the best of its competitors. It has a very high-resolution full-frame sensor, almost double the resolution of the R6 Mark II at 45 megapixels. It's also a great choice for professional videographers with the option of full-width 8K video recording. There's only a small handful of consumer cameras that are capable of this right now, and the R5 is one of them. It also shoots full-width 4K video at up to 120 frames per second. Compared to the R6 Mark II, it has a slightly larger LCD screen and a higher resolution electronic viewfinder. Instead of dual SD slots, it has one SD slot and one CF Express card slot. A high-quality CF Express card is essential if you're going to be using the camera's full video capabilities. What you lose is that the R5 has a slightly older autofocus tracking system, but it still works incredibly well. For sports shooters, it actually has a slower continuous drive at 20 frames per second versus 40 frames per second in the R6 Mark II. And the battery life is only rated at 320 shots per charge, though we typically get a full day of diving when we're shooting stills with this camera. I would definitely recommend a spare battery pack if you're going to be shooting a lot of video. The R5 tops out the price scale at a retail price of $38.99, not including the lens. Canon also makes an R3 camera, but to be honest, you're not going to get any better results that would warrant investing way more money, luggage space, and energy pushing that system. You would get some bigger muscles though. So now you've seen everything. With each of these cameras, you get the Canon RF lens mount, which is compatible with their great new RF series lenses and also works very well with older EF lenses when using an adapter. We really like Canon's ergonomics and their menu systems. Let's summarize where each camera sits in the Canon lineup. The R100 is the most affordable camera. It's the most affordable in the Canon lineup and really among all high-end compact cameras. Upgrade if you want to be able to shoot faster with better battery life. That makes R10 the best value. If you're on a budget but want the best mix of features, then the R10 is for you. Upgrade if you want to get more resolution. The R7 is the most powerful compact form camera. I would stop here, but you can upgrade if you need or want to shoot full frame. R8 is the smallest full frame camera. I think you only really need to upgrade if you want to shoot a lot of video. The imaging of the R8 will rival any of the larger cameras. The R6 Mark II is the best value professional end camera for fast action, full frame shooting. Upgrade if you need maximum resolution, which makes the R5 the ultimate for digital still and video resolution. Any bigger than this, and your system's really going to be too big and too heavy to lug around. So which camera are you shooting? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want one-on-one help with everything from choosing a camera to taking the underwater photo, please email us via ikelite@ikelite.com. Until next time, happy shooting!